Why do we suffer? And how do we find meaning? Even in the darkest places, Viktor Frankl survived the Holocaust and discovered that even when everything is taken from us, one freedom remains. The freedom to choose our response in man's search for meaning. Frankl shows us that meaning isn't found, it's made. Through love, through purpose, through how we suffer. Life is still asking you a question. What will your answer be? Extraordinary, that even when everything is stripped away, there remains one thing no one can take, our freedom to choose our response. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, is not a textbook, it's a testimony, a philosophy forged in fire. And in it lies a roadmap for how to confront pain, despair, and even death without losing the thread of purpose. In this episode, we dive deep into Frankl's most life-altering ideas. Ideas that can help us not just cope with suffering, but transform it into meaning. Suffering is inevitable, but optional. Frankl doesn't offer false comfort. He never says suffering is avoidable. In fact, he starts with the brutal reality of it. He describes being herded into cattle cars, stripped of all possessions, even names. He recalls how the first thing new arrivals saw at Auschwitz was the smoke rising from the chimneys, and how the terrible truth settled in quickly. Many wouldn't survive. Yet amid that horror, some did. And not just physically, they preserved their inner lives. Frankl observed that the people most likely to endure weren't the strongest or smartest. They were the ones who still believed in something, a future, a loved one, a higher cause. These people, Frankl wrote, had a why, and because of that, they could bear almost any how. Frankl tells the story of a fellow prisoner who was convinced he would be liberated by March 30th. As the date neared and no liberation came, the man's hope faded. His immune system collapsed. By April 1st, he was dead. It was hope, not medicine, that had kept him alive, and it was despair that had killed him. The power of choice. One of Frankl's most revolutionary ideas is deceptively simple, he wrote. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Even in a concentration camp, a place engineered to erase identity and autonomy, Frankl saw that people still made choices. Some shared their last piece of bread. Others comforted strangers. They couldn't change their fate, but they chose how they met it. This idea is radical. It reclaims power from the world and places it inside us. It says, you are not your trauma. You are not your past. You are not your suffering. You are the person who responds to it. In a world that often teaches us to react, to lash out, to numb, to escape, Frankl reminds us that our true power lies in response. That's the heart of what it means to be human, the ability to choose. Logotherapy, the will to meaning. Before the camps, Frankl was a psychiatrist working in Vienna. But what he developed afterward was something more profound, a new school of therapy rooted in meaning, not pleasure or power. Freud said we are driven by the pursuit of pleasure. Adler said we are driven by the pursuit of power. But Frankl saw something different in the face of suffering. Man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life. He called this approach logotherapy, from the Greek logos, meaning word, reason, or meaning. It's the belief that humans are not just seekers of comfort. We are seekers of purpose. Logotherapy doesn't ask, how can you feel better? It asks, what is your life asking of you? Frankl would pose questions like, what unfinished task are you responsible for? Who needs you to stay alive? What truth are you willing to suffer for? Logotherapy isn't about escaping pain, it's about redeeming it. Pain becomes bearable when it's in service of something larger than ourselves. Who needs you to stay alive? Meaning is personal, but always possible. Meaning isn't something we're given. It's something we must make. Frankl insists that there is no universal formula for meaning. For some, it's found in work, in pouring yourself into a craft. For others, it's in relationships, love, family, friendship. For some, it's creativity. For others, it's sacrifice. But whatever it is, it must be chosen, not inherited, not copied. He tells the story of a young man who lost his wife and came to Frankl in deep despair. Nothing could bring her back. But Frankl gently asked, what if you had died first, and she had to suffer this pain? The man thought for a moment and said, she would have suffered terribly. Frankl responded, "Then you are bearing the pain in her place. That is your meaning." It didn't erase the pain, but it transformed it. Meaning doesn't erase suffering, it transfigures it. It takes the same raw material and sculpts something human from it. Tragic optimism. Frankl coined a powerful term, tragic optimism, the decision to say yes to life, even when life says no to you. It's not blind positivity. It's not pretending everything is fine. It's recognizing that life can be brutal and still responding with courage, creativity, and conscience. Frankl wrote, "What matters is not the meaning of life in general, but rather the specific meaning of a person's life at a given moment." In other words, the question isn't, what is the meaning of life? The real question is, what is life asking you right now, and how will you answer? Tragic optimism doesn't deny suffering. It embraces it and insists that even suffering contains the seed of meaning. It's a deep kind of hope, not the kind that says everything will get better, but the kind that says, no matter what happens, I will find a way to make it matter. The existential vacuum. In the modern world, we're surrounded by comfort, but haunted by emptiness. Frankl noticed that as people became more materially secure, they often became more spiritually lost. He called this the existential vacuum, a feeling of inner void, of living without direction or significance. Many people try to fill this vacuum with pleasure, distraction, or conformity, but it never truly satisfies. Frankl believed this was one of the greatest threats to modern society. Not war, not poverty, but meaninglessness. And he warned, when people cannot find purpose, they don't just become bored. They become vulnerable to addiction, aggression, depression, and even totalitarian ideologies. Without meaning, people become hollow, and hollow people are easy to control. Meaning as resistance. To live with meaning is to resist despair. Frankl's entire life, from his survival in the camps to his decades of writing and teaching afterward, was a quiet act of rebellion against hopelessness. He taught that every person has the freedom to shape their life into something worthwhile, even if their circumstances are dire. This is why his book continues to resonate. Because no matter where you live, no matter what you've been through, life will at some point confront you with suffering. And when it does, you have a choice. Will this break you, or will this build you? Man's search for meaning is more than a memoir, it's a mirror. It reflects back to us the deepest truth of what it means to be human. That we are not passive victims of fate. That even in the face of cruelty, absurdity, and loss, we are still free to choose, to love, to hope, to create, free to mean something. Frankl reminds us that life never stops asking us questions, not even in the darkest hour. And our answers are not given with words, they're given in how we live. So, what is your life asking you right now, and how will you respond? If this video helped you reflect on your own why, consider subscribing. In our next episode, we'll unpack the 48 laws of power and explore the tension between ambition, ethics, and strategy in a world obsessed with influence. Until then, stay reflective, stay resilient, and never stop searching for meaning.